It was, just use my pronouns. And now it's, I get to compete against the opposite gender and use their locker rooms, or else you're a bigot. And the Biden administration, by the way, may go back to giving Title IX protection to transgender athletes, which means the whole thing then is just a free-for-all for anybody who wants to compete against the other gender. You have people demanding that they are put in a woman's prison, even if they're a man with a penis. They just say, I'm a woman, so put me in the woman's prison. It keeps getting crazier. This is the nature of this movement, of this situation. It never stops. And this is... and I would say the most recent manifestation we have seen is we got to get the kids to do this. We got to get 12-year-olds to take the puberty. And now a level beyond that is individuals who are saying, I want to have no genitalia. I have a right to have a medical professional. Remember, this is a serious surgery with all kinds of you're not, this is not growing your hair out and putting on lipstick. This is something you got to be put on general anesthesia. You got to have a surgeon, all this stuff. They want doctors to remove all genitals.
Yesterday was a front page story in the New York Times about the dangers of transgender surgeries for minors and also puberty blockers. And it's a fascinating story that they finally acknowledged is a real issue. And it's a several thousand word story. But what I thought was intriguing was, and we've made these analogies before, and I wonder whether there's somebody who's kind of a mole inside of the New York Times that thought to do this. In the print edition, yes, I'm an old man, I read the print newspaper. When you finished that article about the transgender, the surgeries and also the puberty blockers, there was an article about a 10-year-old who got a tattoo. And in that article about a 10-year-old who got a tattoo, they quoted several experts as saying, how in the world could any parent let their 10-year-old get a tattoo? Kids who are that young don't have the ability to make life-altering decisions. I'm paraphrasing. Yet there were many experts in the article about the puberty blockers saying, well, if a 12-year-old decides they don't want to go into puberty, we should definitely do it. And the overriding story here, Buck, was that when you get puberty blockers, your bones don't develop like they normally would. And many of these kids are facing osteoporosis issues where their bones are brittle because puberty is when many kids, I didn't know this, but your bones strengthen to a large degree to support you being able to handle an adult body. And many of these kids getting puberty blockers are having issues with their bone strength, in addition to all the issues that might arise, obviously, from changing your gender while you're still under 18 years old.
So there's something, called body integrity identity disorder, which is when somebody wants to amputate a healthy limb.
Yep.
This is a real psychological condition. I believe it is still in the DSM. I think it is still something that the medical community, psychiatric medical community, will talk about. There was a story, Clay, since we're discussing this yesterday, on Vice, which is a very left-wing so-called news organization. It's like a left-wing blog. Trans people are seeking non-binary bottom surgeries. While there was much discussion before the midterm election about issues like transgender indoctrination in schools, which they still want to do, and drag queen, not just drag queen story hour, but these kind of drag queen strip shows in front of small children, the dancing up on the poles or whatever, all this stuff that goes on. It's weird. It's inappropriate. We all know this. Well, not everybody, but everyone listening to this knows that. And this was new. I had never heard of this before. And now I want to point out, this is reported on in Vice, which is, it's essentially like the place for very far left-wing hipsters with, this is like a very far left-wing website. I'll put it to you that way. A lot of nose rings and blue hair and, Black Lives Matter and announcing pronouns and get your 6 vax shots. That's kind of the Vice vibe. So they're reporting on this. Trans people are seeking non-binary bottom surgeries is the story here. Across the gender spectrum, I'm quoting everybody, some patients are looking for mixed sets of genitals, or none at all. And actually receiving this affirming care isn't easy. Okay, a couple things here, Clay, before I let you get into this situation. First of all, you can tell by the subhead here, the subheadline, that the problem here is, oh my gosh, we're not letting people easily get mixed genital sets or no genital sets. I want to be clear. In this article they go into, there are now transgender self-identified individuals who want surgery to have both a penis and a vagina simultaneously because that is their gender identity journey. Or, I'm not even sure which is, I mean, I think this is probably the more strange one. To have all genitalia removed entirely and have only, a urinary tract effectively in that area. This is a thing that is happening, and some doctors are being told by their patients that this is the surgery that they want. I would wonder within the trans left-wing activist community, on what basis? This is their truth. On what basis will they tell them they can't do this?
Yeah, this is all crazy. And my general belief is if you're over 18 years old and you want to make crazy choices for yourself, you can do it. I think it's unlikely to lead to you being happier. I think many of these people are psychologically broken and they feel like they need to take grave action in order to make themselves happy. And I suspect very often after all these surgeries, they think, oh, if I just did this, I would be happy. If I just, and then they aren't, right? But this is next level crazy. This is just, at some point, there is a difference between, I mean, the analogy on Halloween, which is if your kid dresses up like a Cowboys and Indians, then it's totally unacceptable. But if an adult decides that they want to change their gender and they demand that you use the pronouns of their choice, it's permissible. The line, I think Matt Walsh had it in his What is a Woman piece, which I thought was really good, is you don't get to pick your adjectives, right? So take away the pronoun thing, like I'm going to share my pronouns with you or whatever else. Look, I don't get to say you can only refer to me as handsome. You can only refer to me as brilliant. You can only refer to me as a genius. Like, everybody out there can make their own determinations about how you see me or you or anyone else. This idea that you can demand your pronouns is crazy. And I don't know where the trans agenda goes, but it feels like many people increasingly are saying, hey, you wanted to change your gender or whatever, but you've gone off the crazy train now.
So what would be fascinating to me, and remember, we can call this, and I do think this is mental illness. I'm not a doctor, but I would make the argument as a layperson that that's what's going on here. That Clay, it keeps getting crazier and they don't stop. I think we need to be very cognizant of that, meaning that the more, it was, just use my pronouns. And now it's, I get to compete against the opposite gender and use their locker rooms, or else you're a bigot. And the Biden administration, by the way, may go back to giving Title IX protection to transgender athletes, which means the whole thing then is just a free-for-all for anybody who wants to compete against the other gender. You have people demanding that they are put in a woman's prison, even if they're a man with a penis. They just say, I'm a woman, so put me in the woman's prison. It keeps getting crazier. This is the nature of this movement, of this situation. It never stops. And this is... and I would say the most recent manifestation we have seen is we got to get the kids to do this. We got to get 12-year-olds to take the puberty. And now a level beyond that is individuals who are saying, I want to have no genitalia. I have a right to have a medical professional. Remember, this is a serious surgery with all kinds of you're not, this is not growing your hair out and putting on lipstick. I mean, this is something you got to be put on general anesthesia. You got to have a surgeon, all this stuff. They want doctors to remove all genitals. So sort of like, Ken and Barbie doll situation here. That is what they are demanding. And what's fascinating is that they're getting pushback from within the trans community, according to this article, for making it seem too crazy. That's what's so interesting. So finally, wokeness has now turned on wokeness, and they're trying to figure out, can we make this next step happen? I'm going to tell you something. They're going to keep pushing this. You know what they tried for a little? There were a couple of articles. One thing they tried for a little while is you are a bigot if you're a man who is not attracted to a trans female, because trans women are women. You're a bigot. They actually, like Huffington Post had some articles about this. That didn't work. I think they're going to try this one next, which is that, hey, if you want to have both sets, so to speak, it's fine. It's fine. And by the way, Joe Biden will have some influencer to the White House, and he'll say, oh, God bless you. You know, you got the two sets. He's fine with this. The White House goes along with all of this.
I just don't know where we go from here.
I almost, by the way, Clay almost flabbergasted with this one, which I've almost never seen before.
I can barely speak. I just, when you told me about this, like basically the way to think of it is like if you've ever seen a Barbie doll or a Ken doll, people are just wiping their entire genitals out. I don't even know. Like this is clearly psychological. Like they are like clearly like mentally ill, right?
Body identity integrity disorder is something that people that are critical of the trans agenda and activism have been bringing up for years, because people realize that you're asking a surgeon to, I don't like my left arm, remove my left arm. That is essentially, boiled down what we're talking about here. This is that now, basically. Remove everything down there. This is body integrity identity disorder, which the trans activist community was always saying, well, that's totally different. This is about living your truth. It's actually not that different.
It's just crazy. And I don't know how we get back to not being crazy, honestly. Spend a lot of time thinking about that.